Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is 𝓲𝓾𝓫 and in today's video I'm going to be giving to you guys some big sister advice for college. I'm really excited to be making this video, and before we get started, make sure you give this video a huge thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe down below. Make sure to turn on post notification to be notified when I post. If I do, let's get on to this video. So if you guys can't already tell, I'm in a new background because I was like, you know what, a girl needs to switch it up. Mind you, I might start sweating midway video because it's a little bit hot in here, but the show must go on, so let's get into this. So starting with the first topic, which is just boys and dating. And once again, this is like no shade. Hey, this is literally not talking to anybody, but honestly, like, I think it's so important, especially, you know, considering the fact that a lot of people, you know, go in the mindset just wanting to, you know, try everything. That's how I'm gonna put it, right? And so be mindful, you know, whether you may be a girl or a guy watching this, because anybody can be watching my channel, right? But I know I do have a lot of girl viewers in general, but just be careful because a lot of people do have ulterior motives. And I remember like one of like the first guys that I ever like entertained or whatever at 𝓲𝓾𝓫, like straight up was like, you think I want to date you? Like, we're freshmen in college. And I was like appalled. I was like, okay, well then bye, boy. It was really crazy times when I was there, but at least he was upfront, but not from the jump. But it definitely like a week or two in, and then he was like, I don't really, and I'm like, well, no, I don't want anything else, because I date to marry or pursue somebody in that way to marry. And if that's not what you want, then, you know, boy, bye. But if that is what you want, then, you know, it's 100% okay if that's what you want, you know, to do other stuff. But I just am personally not interested in that. I just think that just be careful and be mindful. At the same time, like, don't revolve your whole life around guys. I feel like my mindset, especially that first semester, was, oh my gosh, like, you know, I'll be able to get my man or whatever. We're gonna be locked in all 4 years. But it's like, try to at least like meet people first, and like not to like close off. Literally Love Island term, but yeah, to close yourself off so soon, because honestly, like, this is a time to be, you know, making friends, you know, joining everything. And I feel like sometimes when we get in relationships, I know at least for me in the beginning, at least, I'm not like this the whole way through a relationship, of course, but in the beginning it's like your whole world is that person. But like, this is the time to be like, you know, exploring yourself and your interests, your likes and dislikes and all. And so I think it's really important to not, at least in the first semester, to close yourself off so soon, but to really take this opportunity to get to know people and to also make friends of the same gender, you know. Like, I've met 2 people actually last, you know, my first semester of college, and, you know, I thought we had a strong friendship, you know. I thought going into college, you know, I had my solid, you know, girls, but it didn't turn out to be the case, and they ended up choosing guys and would consistently like put me in positions where I would end up being alone, but they would always choose guys that they just barely, you know, got to know. And it just kind of like a slap in the face. And it's like, you know, like it was like they only wanted to be around whenever they were with that guy. And it's like, to be like that, to be honest, like, once again, like, all is forgiven now, but it is an uncomfortable position to be in, and you don't want to be that person leaving somebody like that. So just make sure, like, you know, at least really, like, I'm not saying you have to talk to everybody, but don't close yourself off so easily in the beginning. Okay, so next one is party life and everything like that. So I've been at 2 different extremes. I've been in the middle of nowhere school at 𝓲𝓾𝓫, where most of the party scenes you have to either drive like 30 minutes out away, because the ones that were close to the campus, they would get shut down like 10-15 minutes, you know. But most of like that lifestyle scene is mainly just in bars. But what comes with that though is you have to have like a fake ID. I never bought a fake ID because, first of all, because I was interested for a second there, I won't lie. Those are like $100, you know, and I I know I just couldn't get myself to spend that much. I'm sorry, but I'm kind of like frugal a little bit. But yeah, and just either way, you have to pay to get in on top of that, and it's just too much. And then I would always get paranoid. I never went, but even when people had offered me, I would always be paranoid, like, oh, what if I go to jail for this? Because, like, you know, especially the circumstances that I'm in my life right now, like, I cannot mess up like that. So you know, I never went to bars. I've never been to a bar before, only for a sorority night, but like that was not like a party. It was just like a celebration, whatever thingy for just the girls. I definitely did go to other kinds of parties, like it was like one of this, like this hotel whatever party whatever, and honestly looking back, I never should have gotten, you know, into there. But I think it's really important just in general to know what you want before you go to college. But I think that I was so unsure of that topic because, you know, I remember having some friends and we would be like, well, not me, but like I would just be hearing their perspective, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea, you know, like going to, you know, parties throughout the weekend and the weekends going to church. But then I was like, wait, because like I'm still a baby in my faith, so I'm still learning some things, but I'm getting to the point where, you know, like you gotta start maturing and everything like that. But back, you know, then it was like going on like a year, and, you know, still, you know, understanding even terms like lukewarm, and, you know, realizing that you know, isn't the lifestyle that I wanted. I went into college not standing on business, on the morals and the, you know, the values that I thought that I had coming in. It just definitely just came crumbling down. But I'm glad that I put my, got my life back together. In second semester, I did things completely different, and I've never been to a party at Georgia State at all, and it's like we're literally in the city, but like I've not entertained that. So go in knowing what you want. Once again, I'm not trying to bash anybody. If you want to go to parties, if you want to have a lifestyle, I definitely partake in it, so I can't, you know, bash anybody, of course, because I did the same thing before. But just be mindful, especially the people that you go with, especially the people that are at the party, especially just what you want, you know, because it's just really huge. Like, don't be peer pressured, and be mindful of the people that are at parties, because also the people that may go with you might only be like, oh, weekend type friends. But I wanted friends who were just like more than just partying, and the ones that I, you know, tended to go with, you know, no longer friends with, because, you know, it turned into a thing where just once again, you know, prioritizing, you know, male validation rather than like wanting to cultivate, you know, girlhood, and that definitely hurt, you know. But so, you know, a lot of reasons which definitely played into wanting away from that lifestyle. And so yeah, so that actually already answered like my whole spirituality thingy, but I'll still deep dive into this a little bit too. But I definitely think that it's important, like if that's what you want, if you are a spiritual person of any form, like the first thing that you need to do is automatically from the jump, like go to that church, join that, I don't know, Bible study group, whatever, but plug yourself in immediately, because I definitely did not do it or have the heart to at first when I went to my previous school, and I definitely fell a lot. And, you know, I have to live, you know, not necessarily with that regret, but with just knowing that, like, you know, I lost a part of myself, you know, in the world. But I'm grateful for what it taught me now, and now I have, you know, you know, it just strengthened my testimony even more, even though it sucks that, you know, like, yes, you know, I partook in some things, I went to some places that I probably definitely should have not went to, but ultimately, you know, knowing what I want now and doing things different. I think that's another thing though too, like being able to like literally pick up your whole life, well, not your whole life, but pick up, you know, everything that you built in the first semester and start all over second semester of freshman year. Like, that's a huge thing, but, you know, God did, and was able to get me through that, and was able to bring me to a, you know, a much better community, and be able to be plugged in, and just so much. I grew so much more in my second semester, being able to actually be locked in with God and have people who, you know, who actually will push me closer to Christ and will keep me accountable. And I was just always surrounded by, you know, other people also pursuing Christ as well. Not to say, once again, that I don't, you know, love my friends that maybe are from a different religion or aren't followers of Christ, but I think with where I'm in the time of my life, you know, more of my friends tend to be Christian. But that doesn't mean that, like, I'm not friends with people that aren't. Like, that wouldn't be, you know, promoting, you know, who God is, and he's love and he loves everybody. And I'm not trying to degrade anybody who's not a Christian, but with where I'm in my where I am in my life right now, you know, Christianity is so huge. And I you know, I think it is okay to have like, you know, like a balance of, you know, people. And the thing is, like, I'm not gonna like leave my friends or not be friends with them anymore because they're not Christian anymore, especially like ones that, you know, I have been friends with since like childhood, unless like, you know, it was really toxic and negative and the things I'm just really not agreeing with. But I feel like there's a mutual understanding that, you know, this is and just respecting each other's values and beliefs. And, you know, it's not to the point where it's like I do have to cut it off, but it's good, you know. So yeah, hopefully I explained that well. So next one is classes. So honestly, like, there's no point in, especially your first year of college, of skipping classes or not going in general. And besides, like, you know, like, of course, mental health, like, that's a huge thing and in itself, and I definitely struggled with it a bunch. But one thing that I always made sure to do, though, is go to my classes. But I know sometimes and in some cases it's hard, you know. I completely understand that. But I really encourage you guys to go, especially because it is a lot of money for college. And I know a lot of people, you know, you are using financial aid. I feel like most students are using financial aid from like FAFSA, and so it's like, you know, or maybe you can't afford it without FAFSA, but it's like still, it's money down the drain. And there's so many people who would love to have the opportunity that we have to be able to go to school. And so unless it's like, you know, like mental health or like just something going on in your personal life or whatever, you know, really do try to go to a class, because you really don't, I guess, yeah, just want to like waste all that time, you know. Also, just to even meet friends or just to talk to people, because, you know, it can be such an overwhelming experience. And sometimes, you know, maybe your first year you don't want to involve yourself in sub clubs, but, you know, you never know who you can meet, and maybe that person that you're going to sit beside that the whole school year or the whole first semester of college is going to end up being your best friend. You never know. But I think that, you know, putting yourself out there and taking in-person classes, not just all online classes, is really beneficial to be able to really connect with and I think, you know, on top of that, even going grade-wise on this topic, just make sure that it's not only your advisor looking at your like graduation plan, but also, you know, you need to be able to understand it as well, because they could really screw you over. I mean, they have a lot of students, and, you know, there might be some things that they may miss out on or might forgot to tell you, or just a lot of things all over, you know. But it's really important to just stay on top of your work, stay on top of like the classes you need to graduate, especially if you're changing majors. I really encourage you guys the first 2 years to do it, because when you change it, you know, going later on, it can really throw off your whole graduation plan. So just, I know it's a huge decision, especially choosing a major that you have to, you know, that realistically you'd want to commit to 4 years. But, you know, things can change. You know, you may feel one thing about a career or a pathway, and, you know, decide a year from then like, oh, you don't want to. But it's okay to change it, you know, that process, you know, like, things happen, of course, but make sure, you know, at least to get on it. And, you know, the worst case scenario, you can take classes in the summer to catch up, but for some majors it might take a little bit longer, and you might be delayed a semester or a year, depending on how you're doing in the class to graduate. And so just be mindful of that, though, and pay attention to that. And yeah, for right now, maybe this is bad advice, I don't know, but I haven't like had like deep connection with my teachers yet, and that's only because, well, I've been having senioritis still. It's really bad still, but like I feel like after graduation it's supposed to be like, okay, we're done. College is supposed to be like a vacation, but, you know, we're still having to learn, and so it's a lot though. But I feel like I'm not really going to, at least, like, I'm not gonna say like I'm gonna be mean to my teacher or anything like that, but to have like a connection where like maybe I'm talking to them like on a regular weekly basis or whatever. I'm waiting to like my huge major classes to do that, because right now I have a lot on my plate, and also like low-key I'm lazy. And maybe this is like really bad advice, but once you do get to a certain point though, or if you're actually really struggling in class, I've been doing well in my classes, but if I was struggling, I definitely would reach out to my teacher a lot more. But don't be afraid to just reach out to them in general, just for anything else though, because it's really important to be able to have the open communication, especially with professors, because they are how you're going to either pass or fail a class, you know. So, and it never hurts to ask, because let me tell you, I had missed the test for one of my online classes. Don't tell my academic advisor, but it's all good now because I was able to do it. But imagine if I wasn't, and like I literally like panicked, but luckily they gave me the opportunity. Even though their syllabus said no, I reached out and they were like, okay. And not to say that you should rely on that, but you never know. It never hurts to ask. And so I just really recommend you guys do that, because it can really save you a letter grade, because my grade went down because of that. But now we chilling because of that. But that was like last semester, so right now we good. Okay, so next one is just making friends in general. And this can be a hard thing because like for me, like I'm definitely like an extrovert. Like I'm gonna talk to everybody, everyone, but when I have the social energy too, of course. But sometimes it can just be like a lot though, you know, and overwhelming. Like, you know, you are, especially for those going to, you know, schools that aren't going to be close to anybody that they know of, it's a lot though, you know. But I encourage you to put yourself out there, because especially like, you know, there's other freshmen also. Like I feel like it's a perfect time because everybody is willing and wants to meet people, wants to make their group, wants to just, you know. And so I feel like it's a perfect time, especially your first semester, to go up to literally every single event. I don't care what it is, go to it and meet somebody there, because that is how I've met, you know, some of the people that I'm close to today. From, you know, I literally one day went up to this event. I don't know if you guys saw my TikTok, but I literally had posted one, and it was about going to all these random events and getting free food from there. And I remember one of the ones I went to, it was like this legal meeting, and there I met two amazing people, and I ended up continuing to go to their meetings, not for the food, but because of them after that. And now like we cool and we chilling and you know, and it's like I had nothing else to do that day, and it was like, why not? There's free food there, and it was worth it because I met such great people there. And now I'm gonna continue going to it next semester, God willing, if there's gonna be time on my schedule. But yeah, and so I just think it's important just to, you never know who you are going to meet. Literally in the most random moment, I went to the Panther's pantry, food pantry, whatever, to go pick up some food, because why not? And I literally I met this one person, and now we're like really close friends. And sorry, I'm gonna FaceTime you soon. I'm sorry I didn't say that, but if you're watching this. But yeah, like, you know, we're really tight, and we spend like nearly every day together, or at least talking or messaging or just something. Like she was like my wing girl and everything like that. And if I didn't get out of my room, you know, there's a lot of times where I was definitely down, but I forced myself. I think, you know, like especially from somebody struggling from like depression and PTSD and just all that stuff, like, you know, sometimes I just want to curl in a ball and just like stay in my bed forever, you know. Like it's hard to get up some nights. Like sometimes it's just so like I just don't have any motivation, and it can last for like huge periods of times. But I'm grateful that I stepped out of my comfort zone and I just went regardless how I felt. And that's what I did a lot when I was at Georgia Southern, for sure. And that's how I met like my solid friend group and all, and I'm really grateful for them. Still in touch with them to this day. And you know, it's kind of hard making friends, especially as a transfer, because it's like everybody's already in the clique. But honestly, at the end of the day, like, you know, the right people, you know, will come your way, but don't be waiting for them, you know. Also be taking that active decision in each day to intentionally put yourself out there. And it can be small things. It literally could be you going up to somebody at the dining hall or at the library, or once again like a random club. It doesn't even have to be a big club. It can be a small club, or it can be like a niche club, something that you like. I remember like I was a part of BCM. I'm no longer a part of the GSU BCM because of the whole situation where a guy was harassing me there. But when I was there during that time, minus before that whole guy situation, it was really nice. I had a huge community of people, and we would do everything together. It was a nice girlhood. And I feel like especially your first year, you need to be in community. I feel like you need people, especially who are going through the similar experience in the same town and in the same age range though too. It's important to surround yourself by people who also share the same values, beliefs, you know. the mindset, positive, just, I don't know, everything of that sort though, you know. And this is the time to do it now, because I feel like as people go throughout the years, I mean, like, and of course, you know, friendships and things might change, but also, you know, ultimately it'll bring you to the right people, the right group, the right, just everything that's meant to happen. And so I really encourage you guys to step out of your comfort zone. It is totally worth it. And yes, and so yeah, this is gonna be my part 1 because it's really hot. I'm at 22 minutes and I need to go edit it before I go to work today. But I really hope you guys enjoyed, and part 2 will be coming out real soon. So yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Peace. It's already hot.